Welcome to ESVN OT, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland, and you know what to do, folks. Subscribe, youtube.com/ESVN show. Put on push notifications. Rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening to or watching this. And say hello to my buddy, Bradley Alsop.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys. So we're just going to do our locks and get out of here.
Yeah, I think our prospects on Monday when we were like, we're going to do a big show was short-sighted.
For people that don't...
Idealistic.
I don't know how, most of our listeners or viewers are probably people who already know me and Bradley from the Majority Report. But we host a political show, a leftist political show on a daily basis. And to say that Trump's reelection has been devastating would be an understatement. So that's all we've gotten to think about. We're going to do our best with these picks. We want to give you guys some content, but we will be back analyzing actual sports for real on Monday because we will need the distraction.
Once we have a particularly merciful weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of edibles that I will consume is immeasurable.
Yeah, I think it's at least the thing is so whatever I took on or ingested on Tuesday, at least it worked. In 2016, I feel like I had enough, in my system to certainly black out, and I felt sober until like 4 a.m. So at least I felt a little bit of whatever I was consuming on Tuesday of this time
Oh,
around.
good. In 2016, I was driving, so I couldn't drink, and I was working, although we were drinking and working on Tuesday night. But in 2016 was way worse because Hillary was a more unlikable candidate in my view. And very much spent the entire campaign kicking the left, kicking the left. Like the Harris campaign was appealing to these mythical moderate Republicans, but she didn't kick the left while she did it. She just appealed to them. And Walz was a better, I don't know why I identify. Maybe it's because I come from, my mom's a lawyer. She's my hero. Kamala's a lawyer. They're the same age. When I was growing up, all the women I looked up to were my mom's really educated friends and of all different colors and religions. I mean, it was growing. She's someone like Kamala would have 100% been friends with my mom. So maybe that's what makes me a little bit more I see myself in her or something more than Hillary. I don't know, but I still think just the numbers show that that she had a higher favorability, but the people wanted to punish the Biden administration for the horrible conditions, and this is where we are. We're back with an overt, authoritarian, anti-democratic presidency.
And my primary feeling is just I'm tired.
I know,
and I mean, and just the fact of knowing that that fatigue. I think that's going to be the hardest thing to combat is just wanting to sort it, because I think when you feel depressive feelings in some way, shape, or form. The instinct is to align yourself a little bit, is to sort of want to go to sleep and go to sleep for a long time until things change. But the work will be to actually try and combat that instinct.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So let's not talk about that for now.
At least football still exists, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least I can watch the Jets on Sunday.
Yeah.
I've actually, spoiler. Well, we can get to our picks, but I actually would have the opposite interest of my team. So
whoa.
So we'll see.
Let's get to our picks.
Alrighty.
ESVN Stone Cold Lock of the Century or the Week.
Oh yeah.
All right. So last weekend, before the world fell apart, well, it was already pretty bad to begin with. We went 1-2, each of us, Bradley and myself. We both incorrectly picked the Houston Texans against the Jets, so perhaps this is some sort of jinx situation. They did not cover the +2 spread. I correctly picked the Cincinnati Bengals -7 against the Las Vegas Raiders, and was incorrect on the Buffalo Bills. They did not beat the Dolphins by 6 points. They beat them by less. So I went 1-2. I'm 13-12-2 on the year. Bradley also went 1-2 again. We both missed on that Texans-Jets game. You picked the Cleveland Browns +1 at home against the Chargers, and they lost, so we didn't cover there. But the Detroit Lions covered and then some in Green Bay. they destroyed the Packers with, what do you know, Jordan Love coming off another injury without practicing. I don't understand why they're doing this because the Packers have a bye this week. They could have just put out the
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. Yeah. And that would have been fine.
Another week, Emma. If this was the second time in two weeks where you were prophetic in the reason as to why one of my picks would not succeed. The first week was the Rams-Vikings game where you were like, I fear the potential of just a Matthew Stafford heat check, which is what happened when I picked the Vikings. And then on last Thursday, you also said that we got a kind of vintage Jameis heat check game, but what if we get a vintage Jameis game in the other way? And we did, in fact, get a vintage Jameis game in the other way against the Chargers.
All right. Well, at least I've been right about something.
I was going to say, right.
If I was wrong about the election.
Yeah, at least you have.
I'm fake crying to stave off the real crying.
Let there be no question that some of your predictive instincts are not wrong.
I take great pride in it. I take great pride in it. Let's start here. I am going with the by the way, Bradley is 12-15. We are only 1 win separated, but it's just that the pushes are helping me out here. So I am going with the San Francisco 49ers -6 in Tampa. Christian McCaffrey is back after their bye. And right now, the Bucs, who I think I really believed in to start the year because of how well they were playing on offense and how aggressive they were on offense. But obviously, Chris Godwin is out for the foreseeable future. Still, Mike Evans is out with that hamstring injury. And Deebo Samuel will be well rested. Juwan Jennings will be well rested coming off a bye. George Kittle will be well rested. And the Bucs are 30th in total defense despite Todd Bowles being the head coach. There are just too many injuries on Tampa's offense with this bad of a defensive performance for me to think that they're going to be able to beat the 49ers, who are going to be well prepared coming off a bye. So I like the San Francisco 49ers in Tampa -6. Bradley, your next pick.
I picked the Bills -4 in Indianapolis, mostly because one, I think anytime I've bet against the Bills, it has not been a successful one, and two, I wouldn't have anyways, even if just because of who they're playing. Despite them being in Indianapolis, I just think the Colts, especially with the Anthony Richardson situation, as well as kind of the lack of intensity and lack of kind of pressure that their defense has been able to engender over the first half of the season. They're just striking me as a little bit rudderless right now, and I think the Bills are kind of in an ascendant form. I really think the Bills' offense has taken a bit of a step. So that's partially why I kind of think the Bills, even though it's, I'm a little hesitant sometimes about lines that are bigger than like 1 or 2 points, just because I always get like a little squirrely about them. But I just think I think the Bills are kind of in a bit of a rolling mode right now, and I would be kind
of.
And the
Colts were not impressive on Sunday Night Football
even with Joe Flacco. Like, it wasn't as if Joe Flacco's entrance into the lineup revitalized the offense necessarily.
No, I mean, their first touchdown was a defensive touchdown, and it was a struggle for them. And the Vikings would have won that game by more if there hadn't been mistakes made by Sam Darnold.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm at with just this is primarily just my confidence in Josh Allen and the Bills right now, and going against a bit of an inferior opponent.
Yeah, agreed on that point. I think the Colts are kind of in the process of falling apart a little. It feels like the locker room was split on the benching of Anthony Richardson. I'm sure AR is one of their, he's young like them, or many of the players and one of their peers, and Flacco is probably just the statesman, almost like a coach in the locker room.
Flacco is as old as Anthony Richardson's mom.
Yeah, right. So
it's a bit of a different vibe.
We'll see how they recover. I am going with the Atlanta Falcons -3.5 in New Orleans. The Falcons are hitting their stride on offense. I was surprised to see how poor, how this line just was this small, given how the Falcons have played so far and how the Colts have been playing. Sorry, not the Colts. Jesus, I'm tired. How the Saints have been playing. They've been absolutely atrocious, I guess. And I know that it's because, in part, Derek Carr wasn't playing, but Derek Carr played last week, and he was really, really bad. He injured Chris Olave by throwing a hospital ball to him, which is an inartful phrase, but it's just what Derek Carr does. It's always the problem that I've had with his game in particular. And I just think that like this is the kind of point in the season when you lose that many in a row where people start making business decisions and they fall apart. And Kirk Cousins, it looks like his leg is getting better and better off that Achilles every single week. The Falcons offense is really good and their defense is not great, but it's good enough. And without Olave, this New Orleans offense, it's just 3 and 4 yard runs for Alvin Kamara and like 2-yard dump offs for him where he gets 200 total yards and the team doesn't win. But he's like just battered by their defense. It's just such a bad game plan. And I know that they will be coming off the Dennis Allen bump, being fired, but I still think that the Falcons will be ready for it because I just don't think there's enough there for the Saints. So I'm going with the Falcons -3.5. Bradley.
Yeah, no, I like your. I think that's smart. I think the Saints have been. The Falcons have been a little ascendant with Zach Robinson and Kirk Cousins kind of finding their synchronicity a little bit. I think the Saints are just somewhat in free fall at this point. But yeah, I'm taking the Cardinals +1.5 in Arizona against the Jets. My second week betting against the Jets, I was wrong last time, but I'm just still not fully convinced that I'm just not convinced that there's anything actually fundamentally or substantively changing positively for the Jets, both internally and externally. And what I mean is like in the locker room and outside of it. There's just really not a whole lot where I feel significantly more confident in them to be like, oh, like they're about to go on a run, like in any capacity. And I also think that we saw a pretty good offensive showing from the Cardinals, despite the passing game being a little bit, besides it's the Cardinals, I feel like against the Dolphins and otherwise have found a few ways to win, both with, I think, a very, very carefully constructed run game, but also with having kind of lightning rod players like Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr., who, while inconsistent, can really get going and insert with certain game scripts. So despite the defense obviously being, still kind of an issue, I still think they play hard. And I also think, frankly, in a number of games outside of this Texans game where the Jets won over the last 7 or 8 weeks, the Jets have not been able really to take advantage of either inconsistent offenses or talent deficient defenses. So that's partially where my thinking is too, is that I just don't, this is not a team that takes advantages of teams' weaknesses or limitations. So I think Kyler Murray. I think they're hitting
their stride. Kyler seems to have matured. He's playing smart football. He's scrambling when he needs to.
And the run game, I just think when deployed properly within Drew Petzing's scheme is just really effective and really creative. And the Jets defense has sort of not been the unit that people were anticipating coming in. So I'm it's not just, I think, me being bitter, because I'm not really bitter at this point. I'm somewhat actually kind of, cynical and apathetic towards this Jets team. I have not, my faith in them has, dissipated a few weeks ago, if not even potentially prior to the season starting. So that's why I'm taking the Cardinals here, even though they are underdogs at home.
I'm going with the Chargers -7 in Tennessee. I just feel like the Chargers are also a team that is hitting their stride, particularly on defense. They were phenomenal in Cleveland on Sunday. No team thus far has scored more than 20 points on the Chargers defense, and I don't think that trend is going to break against a Tennessee offense that has it struggles for sure. It's unclear if it's going to be Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. I'm not sure it necessarily matters. Both of them are pretty bad. My guess is that the Titans don't score more than 17 points. And I think the Chargers, now that they have an emerging duo of Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey and like Will Dissly, it feels like is the guy that just gets the cheapest yards for them. When Herbert feels pressure, Dissly's always there for him to dump it off to him, and it puts them in short, second or third and short situations. It's just this extremely simple but very fundamentally sound offense, and I guess that's what you could expect from Jim Harbaugh. That was always his core brand proposition. So I think the Chargers are going to win in Tennessee. I think it's a close defensive battle for a little while, but the Chargers win by 10 at the end of the day.
I think so far the formula which you're alluding to is so far like you paying dividends for the Jim Harbaugh led Chargers, in that it's basically kind of like a sort of consistent 3 to 5 yard gain on the ground type of run team run game, interspersed with a few explosives from Justin Herbert, which he now is so much more capable of, with Johnston taking a bit of a leap and having a reliable, very skilled route runner with good hands in McConkey, as well as you're saying, kind of when he needs a little bit of an escape hatch, Will Dissly in like short yardages over the middle of the field has been quite helpful. So I think that proposition on offense, with frankly a defense that has been playing pretty well, has kind of made the Chargers, I think, a bit of a wild card threat for the postseason so far in the first half of this season.
Absolutely. All right, your final pick.
I'm taking the Rams -1 in Los Angeles against the Dolphins, because even though the Dolphins, I think, actually did have a bit of a stronger offensive performance last week against the Cardinals. I mean, obviously still losing by
or
one.
Against the Bills.
Oh, so sorry. Was the Cardinals 2 weeks ago? Maybe I was thinking they put up 27 points against the, or maybe it was the Bills. I just don't. It's hard for me to keep track of these games. But the Dolphins, I feel like recently, even with I guess Tua coming back, had a bit of a better offensive performance. I don't know how much I'm buying that in terms of its sustainability or its kind of its long-term progression, just because I feel like Tua's, I think the tenuous nature of Tua's health, and sort of like kind of knowing how much the offense just relies on him specifically being the one to kind of like usher it forward, combined with, I just think the vibes are like it's both on and off field stuff for me. I don't think the Dolphins are trending in the right direction.
Yes,
because I think
the Rams are right.
And I think even with all of the struggles and all of the attrition that the Rams have been experiencing, I definitely think I think when you compare the two games, like the Dolphins-Bills game and the Rams-Seahawks game, the Rams going back and forth, taking punches and making it to overtime with Stafford winning that game, that's a revitalizing thing. I think the Dolphins getting that close and kind of giving the Bills everything they could and still losing, yeah. I feel like that to me was potentially the critical mass of what the Dolphins can muster right now. So I kind of think I sort of see these two teams as potentially diverging in terms of upward and downward trajectories. And although obviously SoFi is not particularly a home field advantage or anything, I just still can see, the Rams kind of taking it on both ends of the ball. Yeah, here.
I'm I could see. Based what you called with those games is exactly what I would have picked for those games as well. So we'll see. We have no crossover picks. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers -6 in Tampa. The Atlanta Falcons -3.5 in New Orleans. The Chargers -7 in Tennessee. Bradley's going with the Bills -4 in Indianapolis. The Arizona Cardinals at home against the Jets +1.5. It is odd that they are home underdogs despite having a better record than the Jets. And the Rams -1 at home against the Dolphins. So we will be back next week. We're going to recuperate a little bit. For every one of you that's watching this that maybe feels very scared and alone, I wasn't signing off just yet, Bradley. I was trying to give a nice little perspective here. Just know that we are with you and we are feeling it with you. This country has a lot of problems and we'll never stop fighting. I know this is a sports show, but it's also important that everybody hears this. So we'll be back, hopefully, in a bit of a cheerier mood on Monday for a longer show.
Take care of yourself, folks.
Please do.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.